Hello and welcome to the first episode of Booktube Bestie. At least the first video that I'm filming. I don't know when you see it in order, but I thought what a better way to kick off Booktube Bestie than with my wonderful bestie Mel from Mel Lenore Reads. If you know us, then you know me and Mel already have very similar tastes. Like, I would say she's probably one of the people I have the most similar taste to when it comes to fantasy. Now, our horrors, our sci-fis, and our thrillers don't always line up, but when it comes to fantasy, we are pretty on par. So when I asked Mel to be a part of this video, she said she struggled a little bit because I had read a lot of the books she's already read, because we buddy read a lot of books. We read a lot of the books. When I say I like a book, she reads it. When she likes a book, I read it, back and forth. But we did come up with one book that I haven't read that she thought I might really like, which is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And then she gave me two options for her worst book, and these were books that she didn't like, but obviously there's a chance that I will like them, because the goal of Booktube Bestie is obviously that I want to see who I have the most similar taste with, so I want my thoughts to align with them, but I also don't want to read books I absolutely despise. So for every single person on this list, I said pick a book that you think that I will dislike for the same reasons you disliked, not because it's just a book I don't like. Like, don't give me a romance book that you know I'm not going to like and have no potential to like because you want to win. So lots of thought was put into this, and she gave me Hidden Pictures and The Lying Game by Ruth Ware. Now, I've read a Ruth Ware before, and I'm hit or miss with Ruth Ware, so both of these were good options because I do think that there's a chance for me to like both. Hidden Pictures is the one I decided to go with, as I was mostly interested in Hidden Pictures. Well, to be honest, it's about library books. I have a library holdout for Hidden Pictures, so I said let's do that one. But Hidden Pictures as a book that I've really wanted to read, so I'm excited to see if we match up. I think the interesting thing about these two picks is they're both different genres, which makes it kind of feel a little bit more fair, because we do have different tastes outside of fantasy. A lot of her favorite thrillers are ones I dislike, and vice versa. So it happens, and I think it's really interesting. We're gonna see how well she knows me with these picks, because she picked them for me as well, and all that other fun stuff. For scoring, I think the idea of how I'm gonna do this is you want a net value of 0. If Mel gave it a 3-star, I gave it a 3-star, it'll equal 0. But if Mel gave it a 3-star and I gave it a 4-star, that's a 1. And you want the person at 0, the littlest number, will be the winner. And if we have multiple people with 0s, 1, they all win, but 2, I'm gonna go into actual like scoring then and figure it out that way. So let's get right on into this video and start with Hidden Pictures. Okay, I'm 10% into Hidden Pictures. It's about chapter 2. It reads quite quickly, and so far, call me intrigued. I don't remember why Mel dislikes this one. I should probably ask her or go find the vlog, because I think it's in a vlog where she reads it. But so far, it's pulling on my like strings that I like. There's buzzwords happening. I love the children. I love like an old house setting, and an imaginary friend type thingy is like right up my alley. So far I'm really liking it. I like the like strict rules in a house. I think that really works for me in horror and thrillers, so I'm excited. I kind of wish I had the print version just so I could see those like creepy pictures, but sadly I don't. But if I like it, I may end up having to like reread it. Maybe. I don't reread often, but like, actually I never reread, but like maybe, or at least flip through. They do a really good job like describing the pictures to you, so I don't feel like I'm missing anything without them, but like I kind of wish I had them just for like added benefit. Other than that, like I'm just really intrigued to where this is going, and I'm hopeful still. This one is a wild card for me. I think I probably said earlier in this video that me and Mel have very similar, very similar fantasy taste, but our horrors tend to be hit or miss, or thrillers tend to be hit or miss. So I'm hoping obviously that this is a miss, because I want to love a book. It's also my first book of the year, so like I really hope I love it. But also at the same time, these videos are so hard because obviously like I'm hoping that our taste align, but I'm also hoping that I don't hate books. So it's hard. Either way I'm winning, and either way I'm losing. Okay, this tractor scene. If you've read this book, there's just like a it's not a tractor scene, I guess. It's like a large lawnmower scene. They're like essentially ride-on lawnmowers, but they look like a really crappy tractor. You probably know what a ride-on lawnmower is. I didn't have to explain that. But I'm picturing the scene in like slow-mo with "She thinks my tractor sexy" playing in the background, and I just had to tell you all that because I think it's a hilarious scene. But yeah. Okay, I'm still really interested. I'm finishing my genre blanket from last year while I'm working on this so that I can start my new one when this book is done. But I'm still really interested in it, but at about 25%, I'm noticing a few issues. The main character's working for a couple, and the guy kind of just like switches personalities. I like where he's going. I really liked that pool scene, but it didn't make sense with the guy we saw in the first couple chapters, which I think you could explain this switch really easily, and so if they do that, I will still enjoy it, but if they don't, then that will be like a negative to the book. But yeah, just wanted to update you on that. Good morning. I made good progress on Hidden Pictures last night. I am 60% in. I don't have a lot to tell you. I am liking it, but if it's supposed to be a horror book, it's lacking a lot of the horror because of the ghost thingy, whatever it is. So in the story, we obviously have someone being haunted by a ghost, except for the ghost is not malevolent, and everyone knows that. The ghost is nice. The ghost is trying to tell us something. The ghost is not trying to harm us at all or scare us or do anything like that, which I think really brings down my enjoyment, because when I read horror, I do want it to be creepy. I don't necessarily think that it has to be scary for me, but I at least want it to be scary for my main character, and my main character is not scared at all. She's like, I'm just gonna help this ghost. This ghost wants help. Like, there is no terrifying element in there, which is bringing my enjoyment down. Although I'm liking the rest of it, my expectations I think were a little bit different going into this book, and it's not helping it. I think I'm sitting at a 3. I don't think I'm gonna hate it. I don't think it'll be on my worst books of the year coming up, which is a win, but I do think I'm going to dislike it enough that Mel will get some sort of points for that, because obviously it's not going to be on a favorites list. It's not going to be a book that I am like constantly raving about because of that element. But other than that, I have nothing really to say. And who knows, maybe that'll change, and maybe like the ghost is playing tricks on us and really it's malevolent this entire time. And malevolent, words are hard. But I do like a lot of the tropes in this. I do like a lot of the things that are happening, so my enjoyment is still there. That's all I have to say. That's all I need to tell you, because I do think it's well written. Oh, and I really, really like the audiobook. I know that the picture is probably, I said earlier that I wish I had the experiences of the pictures because you have those creepy drawings, but like the audiobook is done really well, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I just want those creepy pictures too. Okay, I'm like 75% into Hidden Pictures, and if this is going where I think it's going, I might like this one a lot. I think I like this twist. I love this type of twist. It's working. This one has so many buzzwords for me. I'm so excited. I hope it doesn't. I hope my hopes are not getting up for no reason. I finished it literally like an hour ago, and I've sat on my thoughts. I've done my rating. I was having a crisis about it because there's a lot of things I loved about this book, and there's definitely things I didn't like as well. I went back and looked at Mel's Goodreads review because obviously I want to figure out what she gave it. And so things I really liked about this book was the tropes and the writing. I actually felt the writing was really, really good. I think it struggled a little bit on characters for me, but I still enjoyed the characters and found them entertaining. I gave characters a 6.5 in my rating system, and I think for me, they definitely had more good than bad. They were characters I enjoyed reading about. I felt like for me the characters weren't originally matching up to who they were, but as the story goes on, they definitely match up, and those inconsistencies mattered and made sense. I said something about the male earlier, and I think I definitely have that problem resolved later on for myself. So I definitely think there's more good than bad, and obviously I also understand the surface level because of the scenario we're in. I think it's done quite well. Plot, I gave a 6.5. I enjoyed the plot. I think it could have gone without the ghost part of the story. I think that we didn't need it. It didn't add to it. I think it could have been one of those books that like borders on not being paranormal, but you think it might be paranormal the entire time. I think that would have been really interesting and probably would have worked better for me, but I enjoyed the plot. I give it a 6.5. There are like some inconsistencies. I see why people wouldn't like it. Things happen a little fast, but you know what? I liked it. Writing, I gave an 8. I think it was quite strongly written. I think the pacing, although sometimes things happen a little bit fast, the pacing was overall really well done. I constantly wanted to read. I pretty much read this, I would say, in one sitting. I started it last night and finished it this morning. I went to bed during then, but like I kept being excited to read, which it's been a while since I've had excitement to read. So I do think that the pacing really, really worked for me. It kept pushing me. There was mysteries happening. I was intrigued to learn what was happening. There were some eye rolls along the way, which characters and plot kind of where the eye rolls happened. But the writing itself was pretty brilliantly done in my mind. And I think that there's a lot of Easter eggs to what the twist is throughout the story. I did not see it coming. I'm actually like shocked by the fact that I didn't see it coming. But when I look back on all the hints I get, I was like, I'm so dumb. I'm the dumbest reader on the entire planet. Like, I was so gullible because it's there. It's there. I see the Easter eggs, and I thought that was really interesting. I liked that. Setting, I gave a 6. This is the weakest score it got. It's a horror book, and maybe I think the pictures in the physical book would have helped with this. I think, honestly, I do think if I had physically read this, Setting maybe would have gotten like a 6.5 or a 7, because flipping the page and seeing that creepy picture is probably like such an experience. And I think at the height of the ghost story and the creepy parts of the story, if you saw like a really artistic, creepy, beautiful picture, it would really add to your world building and setting and the atmosphere and the vibes and the mood and all of that. I didn't get that because I listened to the audiobook, but I'm rating it on my experience, so it did get a 6 because it wasn't very horrific. The atmosphere could have been built a little bit better than it was, so a 6. And my enjoyment was an 8. I had a fun time with it, which ends up with a 7.17, which doesn't matter. Ends up with a 3-star, which does matter, because let's see what Mel gave it. She just texted me back. She gave it a 2. I had to ask to confirm because I know when she gave it to me, she said it was a book that she started to dislike the more and more she thought about it. Like she disliked it when she read it. She gave it 2 stars, but like the more she thinks on it, the more she really didn't like the book. I give it 3 stars, which puts her at a score of 1 currently. So that's, you want to be at 0 is what I'm just gonna keep explaining to you during these. So she has a score of 1, which is not terrible, not at all. I obviously liked it a lot more than she did. I think 3 and 2 can have a pretty big jump. I do understand why she didn't like it. She's talked about it before to me. In her review, she says she hates when mental illness is used as a plot device. It's something I didn't mind, and I liked the way it led to a unreliable narrator and didn't affect my enjoyment, but I could understand why it would affect hers. But yeah, definitely not my favorite read. It's not a horror book that I'll be recommending, but I think if you think about it as a thriller, I really enjoyed it. Let's move on and see what she scores on Project Hail Mary. I literally just started Project Hail Mary, and literally I'm 5 minutes in, not even, but when they talk about his catheter being ripped out, ugh. I had a friend who had a catheter ripped out, and his balls were black. Like, I don't mean kind of black. I mean like they were black afterwards. Yes, I looked at them, and I cannot imagine the pain that makes something bruise to the point that they're black. And so I'm already in this book. I'm already expecting a 5-star. I'm very excited. That's all I gotta say. Like, this already has my attention, and I'm just like, ugh, about the catheter. Another update. I'm literally still on chapter 1. I am unsure how I feel about the comedy in this, I will say. It feels a little bit too much for me at this moment in time, but I think I might get used to it as the story goes on. But right now I'm like, okay, tone it back a little bit. But I know a lot of people like that about it, so we will see. I'm hoping I just get used to it. Oh, I'm gonna apologize for my hair. I just woke up. I am working, but I figured I should update you a little bit on Project Hail Mary. I think I'm about 40, maybe 50% in, and I do actually have some thoughts on this One is that I was really interested in this while we were talking about like the science and stuff, but we just got to the First Contact and I'm less interested in the First Contact, which it doesn't say on the back that it's First Contact, but everyone talked about this book and like I knew it was First Contact, so I feel like it's not a spoiler to tell you like if you're looking for a First Contact book, this is First Contact. But yeah, like the first half, the like science and stuff, I was finding interesting and I liked the parts set back on our planet, but I'm less interested in what's happening in the spaceship. Mainly I think because something I learned in my 1-star audit was that I'm not the biggest fan of an isolated character, and so we do have an isolated character in this. I like an isolated setting, but I don't like it to be my character isolated, if this makes sense. So like I think I would have preferred this story with a team on the spaceship. So I want those interactions between characters. I don't just want our one character and in his head. I find it very much like just a lot. Like I find his head being in his head a lot, and I'm not the biggest fan of the character. The humor is a little much for me. I would like it like toned back a little bit. I'm that person that like when I watch a movie, I like the comedic relief, but I'm not there for the comedic relief, and I can probably live without the comedic relief at a lot of the points. Although in the show Lost in Space, my favorite character is Don West and he is the comedic relief. I'm not watching for Don West. I like the elements Don West adds into the rest of the crew and the show. I want those stoic and serious characters too, and so I think that's what's really falling short for me on this one. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star. I'm still sitting at a 4-star. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm still liking bits of it, but I definitely don't think that Booktube Bestie we got a hit on either one. The comedy is just a little much for me. I understand why people like it, and I understand why it translates so well to a movie, because I loved The Martian movie. I haven't read the book, and I see the writing style that translates into The Martian, like the movie. Obviously this isn't the same book, and I think this would translate so well into a movie and would be a fabulous movie, but I'm not sure it works for me in book form. But we'll see. We'll continue. I'm still excited to continue and see where it goes. There are a lot of elements that I am liking. I like the science. I really like the science and how easy the science is explained and stuff like that. Sorry that I am in the same spot I've been in pretty much this entire video. I read these books really quickly over the span of 2 days, so it means that my camera ends up being in the same place, where normally I try to move it around. But I finished Project Hail Mary, and I have thoughts on it. Some good thoughts, some not so good thoughts, some very, very disappointed Cassidy though. When given my list for Booktube Bestie, this was the one out of all the books I was given that I thought I was going to love. This was my 5-star pick. This was the book I was going to scream from the rooftops about. Booktube Bestie was a success because of this book, was what I was hoping. It's not looking like that, which is really, really sad. I am in the minority here. So many people love and adore this book, and I see why. It just didn't work for me. This can sit on the shelves of books with moments that I understand why people feel for them, but I just didn't connect to. So I'm thinking like Sword of Kaigen, Jade City, these books that I understand why they're great. I understand why people love them, but I didn't love them. My biggest issue with this is the characters. The problems I had earlier that I talk about continued throughout the entire book. It was a little bit too comedy heavy for me. I kept waiting for the serious moments. I kept waiting for things to like catch up to our protagonist. One of the things I kept waiting for was grief. Grief at the situation he's in, grief at the things he discovers, and we never got those. He kept just being like, oh, think about it later. And I get there are people out there that continually push off their grief. They continually distract themselves so they don't have to think about it. But in a story like this, I think it's something that should have been discussed, at least for my sake. I think that having a character who has to go through different stages of grief, so like at first it's denial, and then it's like avoiding it, and then eventually you have like a breakdown because they're in such a intense and insane situation. I would have liked to see that. I kept waiting to see little small moments of real character feelings, not just comedic moments. I felt like any time we had anything serious, the next line was a joke. And that works for a lot of people, obviously, but it didn't work for me. I wanted there to be a fine balance between the two, and for me, it didn't hit the balance. Maybe it does for other people, but I just kept wanting deeper and darker moments. Another thing I think that didn't work for me is the dark moments were non-existent. I kept wanting to feel like the state of the world was at risk. I kept waiting for our character to feel like he might expire at any second. I wanted those feelings and that emotional grip, but for me, the story was so hopeful the entire time that I wasn't ever afraid for humanity, for our protagonist, for the character he meets along the way. I just felt like the book sat at one level the entire time for me. It was comedy after comedy after comedy and very like hopeful thoughts, and I just wanted it to have a little bit more depth than that for me personally. I know a lot of people who love it. As I said, I have the most unpopular opinion. Everyone I know gives this book like 4 or 5 stars. So I'm just sitting here with my first controversial read of the year. Things that I think that this book does brilliantly is the sci-fi. I think the author does a brilliant job of never ever ever making you feel stupid. They're talking about science things that are way over my head, but I actually feel like I understood pretty much all of it because the author relates it to things that your mind can handle. So there's a point where they're talking about how much power they'd need, and it's like a number that's like way out of your sphere of existence. But the author then says that it would be more than powering New York City for a year, and having that real life situation is something that I can understand slightly more than just like this abstract number made me understand things a little bit more and connect 2 to 2, and it just, that worked for me. I really liked the sci-fi. I never felt dumb. I really enjoyed the sci-fi elements. Around 50 to 75% we dive really deeply into the sci-fi, and we probably could have not. That was my only issue with pacing the entire book. Other than that, I felt like the pacing was good, and I think the writing was just really, really strong. The setting is pretty strong too. Like, I always felt like we were in space, and that happens with the sci-fi. The sci-fi ends up being a lot of the world building. We're on a spaceship. We explored the spaceship. Setting was really good. The plot also pretty decent. I enjoyed the plot that we had, although I wanted it to be a little bit more to the forefront. I think I lost the plot at moments in order to get character moments, and as I said, this is a character-driven book, so that's what happens, is you lose plot to the friendship that happens here. And because I didn't care about the friendship, and I really didn't, like I was like, okay, let's get on with like the plot. Let's get on with saving the world. Let's stop being buddies back there. Which, this is why I think that I'm not a character-driven reader at times. Like, I really truly, like, I think I just had a crisis in my last vlog. I don't know if you've seen this SPFBO vlog before this, where I said, maybe I am a character-driven reader. This book reminds me of why I'm not, because I wanted to see the plot. I wanted to see where the characters were going, how we were gonna fix things, instead of these small moments. I didn't want this budding friendship. So for me, just not character-driven. And I think that if you are a character-driven reader, this book probably works brilliant for you. And I'm not saying there's no plot, because there is a plot, but the plot was not the forefront of reasons to love this story. The characters are, and if you can't connect to the characters, if you don't care about the characters, you're not gonna love this story. That's how I feel about it. I think it does some brilliant things in it though, and I understand why a lot of people love it. The other complaint I had, which is really personal to me, is that I loved the idea of a first contact with aliens that are not smart, that they have no brain to them, just a celled organism, nothing with like feelings, thoughts, anything like that. I liked the idea of us running into something or something destroying us based on just its basic needs to survive. And I think that was ruined a little bit by the other contact we have in this book. I thought it was just such a unique take to do first contact originally, and so I was getting really invested in that part of it, and then we get this other part of it, and I was just like, oh, no one cares about that. Let's get back to this part. So again, I just preferred, I think, a lot of the plot, the setting, the science to the characters, and that's what made this a 3-star read for me in the end. I actually ended up giving this a lesser score than Hidden Pictures. I ended up enjoying Hidden Pictures more than this. It was my enjoyment that actually mattered in the end, because my enjoyment on Hidden Pictures was high, even though the statistics for some things weren't as high, where on this one the other stuff had very high ratings, but my enjoyment was, I think, a 5. Like, I was about 50-50 because so many things impacted it, so my enjoyment definitely brought this rating down, and that's why I created this rating system, because I wanted my enjoyment to be able to bump something up or bring it down. So yeah, that's my first Booktube Bestie. Now, after reading both Hidden Pictures and Project Hail Mary, Mel is sitting at a score of 3. She got a 1 point for me being 1 star off from Hidden Pictures, and she got 2 points from me being 2 stars off from Project Hail Mary. So this is not what I expected. I expected Mel to probably be at a 1 or a 2. 3 is quite farther away than I thought she would be. So it's interesting to see how it'll shake things up along the way. I also realized I didn't tell you anything about these books. Project Hail Mary follows our main character who wakes up in a spaceship and has no memory and has to figure out what he's doing there and the science to save humanity, because he ends up learning that humanity is at risk. And then Hidden Pictures is about a girl who ends up going to nanny for a family, and the son is drawing like pictures of someone dying, and they're really creepy pictures. There's like a creepy imaginary friend, and things start to like unravel and happen. Both were very terrible synopsises, but that is what those books were about. So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji to say you were here, leave me like a notepad or a pen emoji. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, I'll link in the description bar below. You can tune in soon for another episode of Booktube Bestie. I don't know whose it is yet, but other than that, have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.